Hey everyone, welcome back to Sister Codes. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Ashley, and today we're going to be talking about our journey into software engineering.
Before we go any further, please like this video and hit subscribe. We come out with almost weekly videos. It's been a bit on the off and rocky, rocky the last couple of weeks, but no, we've been content calendaring. We're really excited. We've got a bunch of really fun, informative topics that we think are going to be great. Also, shout out to the fact that we are using our new camera!
Super exciting! We got the Sony ZV-1, and yeah, it's like a proper vlogging camera.
Yes.
It's got the little mic, what's it called? The windscreen?
Windscreen.
Yeah.
But it's so fuzzy and cute.
Fuzzy, yeah.
One of the things I'm finding really difficult is it has a pop-out screen. Is I want to look at myself on the screen instead of looking directly at the camera. So this is going to be a little bit of adjustment for us, but we're really excited. This is our first big investment into our YouTube because pretty early on we did invest in a Yeti microphone for our podcast, which we love, by the way. But yeah, we did some research. We asked Instagram and Twitter, and we landed on the Sony ZV-1. We'll do like a more in-depth product review after we've used it, but this is like the second day that we've had it, and we're still getting to know how to use it in the first place, so.
Yeah, and we're super excited because it means we can, bring out more professional content for y'all, so.
Yeah, and exciting. The sound is going to be better. Hopefully the image, just like the video quality is going to be better, more like stabilized, and then when we do shots of outside in and around the cabin, it'll just be more high caliber quality content. So.
Yeah, we're super excited, yeah.
So when we get asked this question, I kind of struggle because it's such a broad question, like what's your journey into tech? And I think for me, it first started when I was editing Tumblr themes when I was really young. Very basic HTML, CSS, couple of small things, but it was really cool because you could change the code, you could see the responsiveness. Also just figuring out like why things did or didn't work was also a really cool part about it. And it was just something I did without even knowing that it was technically coding. It was just something that I did for fun because I wanted to do it.
Yeah, fun fact, I didn't actually know that until Kaylee just said it, but I also edited Tumblr themes. We were talking about it earlier, and yeah, we used to do things like changing the cursor so that you could have like little sparkles.
Yeah, there would be like a sparkle trail as you move your mouse across it.
Or changing colors and like changing the fonts and things like that.
A lot of people talk about, what are the little pets? There's like penguin pets or something. I don't know. There was like a different
Penguin?
No, I guess maybe it was Club Penguin. Anyways, but there was like a different platform that was basically aimed at helping kids learn how to code because, like, remember after the .com burst, a lot of people were still like tech is the next like new thing. But I didn't actually have formal introduction to tech until I got to high school. So there was a very big gap between when I was editing Tumblr themes in my spare time all the way to when I was in high school and I was just starting to learn computer science formally through an AP computer science class. And that was my first real introduction to coding. It was a Java-based class, which looking back on it, very challenging to start with Java because object-oriented is a lot to wrap your head around, especially as you're also learning how a computer works, how a compiler works, and just understanding the mechanics of it. But I did take an AP computer science class. It's funny enough because I didn't actually take it because I thought I was going to be a programmer, but I took it because it was that or fourth year advanced Latin. And I was like, I am done with Latin. I was like, I do not want any more Latin in my life. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take AP Computer Science instead. I actually at that point in time thought I was going to be a math major. I thought I was going to go into finance and do maybe like econ and math as a major. And I had no idea that I was going to be a computer scientist.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I didn't do anything in high school around coding. I basically started when I went to university, and I also learned Java as my first language. That's what they start you off with. I know Kaylee said it's a little bit difficult, but honestly, I think it was a good starting point because you need to know how to code in object-oriented languages, and it gives you a really good foundation for it. So I think it's easier to understand other languages once you understand Java. But I know Python is also a very popular one to start with.
I think it's easier to teach Python as well because you don't need to go into all of the details to get somebody up in coding. It's very easy to run Python. It's very easy to set it up. In fact, there's a lot of online IDEs as well, which is nice when you can just in the browser be running Python. Java is like an install process. You typically need a pretty good IDE that has, good features. You have to build, there's a lot of steps. So yeah, I think Python is a better starting language. But it's interesting that we were both Java started into our official computer science curriculum.
In your first year of university, did you have to do Java?
Yep, that was the first class I took in college. So once I took AP Computer Science, I realized I really liked it, and I went into college as a computer science declared major. So I was one of those rare people who just knew I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I started off not in the introduction to computer science course, but there was one more step up. It was called Foundations of Programming, I think. And that was a Java-based class. It was really meant to introduce you to the ins and outs of Java. So everything about object-oriented, getting all the way down to like threads, asynchronous, synchronous, method calls, all of that really good stuff. And that was a really hard class, honestly. Like, it was a huge step up to go from very basic AP Computer Science level, requirements and assignments to this college class that's called Foundations of Programming, which honestly was a little bit of a lie, because there were definitely other students in that class who had a lot more background knowledge on coding. And so just in that very first class, given it was an intro, I do get that, there was a lot of different levels. And so I found that to be a really, really challenging class. And I was big time questioning whether I wanted to be a computer scientist that first year.
Yeah, I think it's the same at most universities, like at mine as well. In first year, I took whatever intro class it was, and they tell you that you don't need any programming experience, but the truth is that they give you like a week of basic Java, and then you're diving right in.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if other schools are like that, where they really rush you in, but it definitely would have been helpful to have some prior knowledge or some review, before we jumped in. But
yeah, or at least just something to level set the playing field with, here's what you should know when you start this class. But you at least even got that 1 week overview. I didn't get anything like that. I don't know. I learned a lot in that class, but that being said, it was definitely a weed out class, which I think is super problematic, especially when you get to minorities or people who don't have a background in computer science, because regardless of them being set up for beginners, they do assume some kind of base knowledge, which is pretty unfair in my opinion. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of classes that are introduction classes that are meant to kind of weed out people. I think that's just not really giving a fair opportunity and playing ground to everybody who joins. We both started in Java, and then I went on to college, and I took so interestingly enough, I did go to a liberal arts school, so I had like a full general education requirement because it was a state public school. So on top of all of my computer science degree requirements, I was also required to take 3 semesters of a foreign language and so many credits of history and art and, all these different requirements, which was really interesting. And I actually really enjoyed parts of it, because I think it does lead to more well-rounded computer scientists rather than somebody who only sits in, physics and math and computer science classes. I had to go and understand like how to write a paper, and I took French for 3 semesters, for example. But what about you?
So it's a little bit different at university over in Scotland, because you go in and you declare your major right away, essentially. So I didn't really take that many classes that were different from computer science. I took 1 management, 2 English classes, and then 1 psychology, I think, class, and that was about it. And then for the rest of time, like 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, I basically only took CS classes, I think. So yeah, it was slightly different for me, but like I said, I started in Java, and then we moved on to C. We did Python, and then we also learned Haskell in one of the classes. We also learned some JavaScript, and I think that was about it. But yeah, it's interesting because we also had some projects where we were just allowed to use whatever language we wanted to use, so that was an opportunity if you wanted to learn a new language, but obviously that's a lot harder, like learning a new language and doing a new assignment. So yeah, those are the main languages that we learned. And then in my 4th year, I had a dissertation, so I know that that's usually reserved for people who do masters or things like that, but it's actually built into the program. Yeah, I had a senior honors thesis, and then I had 2 supervisors, and then the entire year I worked on this project. It was actually an Android app, and then I ended up, graduating and then having completed this dissertation, which is pretty cool to have on your resume and be able to talk about as a personal project.
And in terms of getting into the industry, we both did internships between our junior and senior years. So for those of you who don't know, I did graduate in 3 years, which I was able to do because I took a lot of AP classes in high school, and so I was able to get credit for a lot of courses starting off my freshman year. So I graduated in 3 years, which meant I did my internship between my second and third year of college, which is typically when most people are a sophomore. I did intern at a big bank on Wall Street, and that was also ultimately where I ended up starting my first full-time role. So I did a 10-week internship over the summer. I really enjoyed it, and I went back full-time, and that's where I was at for basically the first 2 years of my career, and I only recently transitioned to a new role. And yeah, I think internships are a really helpful way to figure out what you enjoy and what kind of company you want to work at. A big benefit of being, I guess, taking a traditional path into tech, which is by becoming a computer science student, is that a lot of them do require some sort of degree relevant or at least adjacent to computer science to be eligible for an internship. So you get all these companies like Google and Facebook, and I mean, basically if there's a company out there, you name them, they probably offer some sort of coding internship over the summer. They're very well paid. They usually come with tons of perks. They'll, put you up in a place to live, give you tons of like free swag and free meals, all sorts of things like that. And you also just get to test it out and see what kind of company you want to work for, if, what kind of coding roles you even like, whether you prefer front-end work or back-end work, or, maybe you want to go into product management, right? So I am a big advocate for doing an internship because it's basically like a 10-week trial period. It's like a free trial where you don't have to go back afterwards. So it's not as intense as committing to a full-time job, but it also gives you a really good idea about some things that you may or may not enjoy that you just want to try out.
Yeah, it's also nice because you can like explore a new city, you can meet new people. Like it's not just about, the work, but yeah,
Totally.
It is really nice to get that experience of working in like a 9-to-5 job, and see what it's really like to work there. I did an internship in Glasgow, and I also did it at a bank, and yeah, I actually did that in my junior year, but then in my sophomore year, I was also offered another internship back in North Carolina when we used to live there. But that didn't end up working because like they weren't going to pay for my housing and things like that. It was just so expensive for me to stay there. So anyways, that didn't end up working. But yeah, my junior year I had the internship, and then I got offered a full-time role. So I was planning to take that after graduation, but then as we all know, coronavirus happened. And yeah, I ended up staying here in the States, and then I ended up getting a job, and I've been working remotely since. But yeah, Kaylee graduated, and she also went to the place that she interned at, whereas I didn't.
So yeah, I actually ended up interning over the summer, and then I accepted a full-time return offer, and that's where I spent actually the last 2 years working. So it was only about 6 weeks ago that I ended up starting my new job. So I spent 2 years in my first full-time job, and then found a new position and just recently transitioned.
I think that that's honestly pretty standard for like your first job. A lot of people work for like 2 years or so. Obviously there are some people who get into their first job and they're very, very happy and they stay there for like 10 years or whatever. You also hear about that side. But yeah, I think in tech especially, people are usually changing.
Call them the tech twos.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I don't know, people want to work in new areas, maybe they want to do some more education on the side and they want to go to a company that allows them to do that. There's a multitude of reasons why people want to change, but yeah, Kaylee's now in her new job.
Yeah, and I also think that, so we had an intern that joined our team who asked a really great question, but about why people tend to switch more often earlier in their career. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're still learning what you like and don't like and what's important to you. Yeah. And so part of it is that in the first 6 months, there's so much happening. It's a lot of just adjustment. You're learning the new culture, you're learning best practices, you're learning the code. It's really hard to really experience a place, I think, until about the 9-month mark in. That's just from my experience. And then about at 9 months is when you start having those, well, wait, why do we do X? Or, man, it's really annoying that we do Y. And that's when you really start to figure out if a place is a good fit and if an environment is a good fit. And then I think, it does take additional time for you to just adjust and to learn and to be in that place. And also, I will say switching jobs is a lot of effort and a lot of work, so you typically only want to do it when it comes with a pretty big pay rise. And that's harder to do for increments less than 2 years, I've found, just because I think you learn so much in 2 years and you can level up so much in 2 years, whereas 1 year, it's definitely possible. I think it's just a little bit harder because, like I mentioned, 6 months is pretty much your adjustment period, which means you really only have 6 months left to level up your skills. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty, like you said, it's a pretty standard thing to find that people after 2 years will start looking around and just seeing what else is out there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I would also say as a junior, like, you're kind of just, you want a job right out of college because you want to make money.
That's definitely true.
You know, you want to save up, so that, you know, you might accept a job that you think is just, you know, it's okay, but it's not your dream job because you do need something right away. And that's also fine because everybody needs experience. And so, yeah, you can gain that experience, but yeah, you don't have to stay there for like 10, 15 years if you don't want to.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for watching. We wanted to share a little bit more about our tech journeys because I think we've mentioned bits of this kind of throughout the channel, but we've never dedicated an entire video to telling you and sharing with you all how we first got into tech, how we got our first jobs, you know, what our education was like. So yeah, please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this, and let us know in the comments, how did you get into tech? We're really interested to see, you know, what our viewers, what their background is. Are you thinking about moving into tech, or are you a current student? Are you in the industry right now? Definitely let us know in the comments below. And yeah,
please like and subscribe to our channel, and we come out with new videos about every week, so make sure that you don't miss those. Thank you all so much for watching.
Thank you.